Yeah, I think definitely we did a lot of work probably before we even stepped foot for our first spring practice, whether it was OTAs, walkthroughs, throwing sessions kind of 2-3 times a week on our own. So I really think the chemistry with all those guys, tight end room specifically for sure, has come a long way. It's been fun with the layers of the offense that continue to get put in. Kind of we figure out, there's some new routes, there's some new timing things. And I think the best thing, with all the groups, with all the skill guys, but definitely that tight end group is just the continuation of progress. Like I feel like every day, we've had good days, great days where, we're continuing to just try to chip away at whatever, we're putting in that day on, offensive installation. But I think the one thing that's, stayed true throughout the whole spring ball is just the continuation of a little bit, we're getting a little bit better every day. Obviously you saw us, connect on some there at the end. That was, that's always a good feeling to end practice that way. But it's been fun to see the progress with that group, guys, some younger guys or some guys to, for me that I wasn't as familiar with coming in here to kind of see them step up and make some plays. It's been fun so far.
Billy, we've heard from Coach Fickle and a couple other people about the kind of history test that he gave the team to help to maybe transfer some of the new guys. What does that mean for you as a transfer to kind of get some of that crash course in what Wisconsin's been?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I think because when you talk about my situation and a lot of guys' situations coming here transferring, including mid-years, we got 30-some new faces, was really getting to understanding of where we are and kind of, one of the reasons why I came to Wisconsin was because of the history. When you look up Wisconsin football, what do you see? What's the history? What is the kind of the brand of it speak of? So to really get, a deep dive, to go back to things of, when the stadium first came around, I think in like 1912 or whatever it is, getting that understanding of kind of this is where we've been and this is where we want to go. Obviously history, of success left some clues. And I think it's things we're trying to go back on and really harp on. So I think it was a good thing for the whole team, but definitely for, me and some new faces in the room to really understand what, the Wisconsin football tradition is.
Kind of sticking with that tradition, putting quarterbacks in the NFL hasn't been maybe the greatest strength of this program the last 20, 30 years. What did you think about what this coaching staff has and what this program can be that made you think this is where I want to maybe kind of launch myself there?
Yeah. I think the one thing for me that, my mindset throughout, all throughout college football has been about opportunity. And I think there was a great one here for me. I think when you look at the staff put around me and put around all those guys on the team, to play for guys like Coach Grimes and his offense, and you get coached and developed by Coach Guyton and Coach Fick, I think it was a no-brainer for me, knowing that all throughout my college career, I just tried to seek opportunity, and then, at that point, it's kind of up to me to kind of go take it and make the most of it. And I felt there was a really good one here, and I think a lot of guys, not even in the quarterback room, in every position, especially on the offense side of the ball, feel the same way.
How's your transition been so far to Wisconsin, and what are you enjoying about being a Badger?
It's been good. It's definitely been a little bit colder, but I think embracing that, was something that right when I got here, never leaving the house without coat or hat or gloves, whatever that was. I think the best thing, probably the two favorite things that kind of go hand in hand, was one, getting to know everyone on the team. I think, with going into my 5th season, I've walked into a lot of different locker rooms. This is my 2nd time transferring. I think this is the best locker room I've walked into just in terms of people, guys that you can build relationships with off the field. And then the flip side of that, a little bit more of a specific memory was ice fishing with some of the linemen. I think that was a good bucket list. I'm mad I did it so late. I think it was like that next week the ice melted and there was no more opportunity to do that. So maybe I'll have to find some time, next November or December, whenever the ice freezes back up. But I'd say just, the relationship building with all the people in here, it's been really good and really refreshing.
Is that your first time ice fishing?
It was. It won't be the last. So I got to get a bunch of people on social media are giving me heat about not having bibs. So I gotta find a nice winter deal for it when it gets a little bit hotter here. I can get a good deal and then I'll be ready for when it comes back around.
When it comes to Grimes' scheme, what is it about what he's going to be having to do on the field that you think kind of fits your skill set and obviously maybe play the key role in your decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the multiplicity. I think he, when you look at a number of stops he's been at offensively, he kind of plays to the player's strengths. Whether it's Zach Wilson and they want to get an 11 and 4 open, drop back and throw the ball 50 times a game, or he's at Baylor and Kansas, and there's a little bit more misdirection and kind of distortion in his game. I think the one thing that attracted me was, stuff that I felt like I could do. I just maybe had not done a lot, in college football in terms of getting up under the center, controlling the line of scrimmage, getting us in and out of the best plays. Really, putting a lot on my plate, because I feel like, that's probably one of the best aspects of my game is my mental, preparation and kind of winning the game mentally, as Coach Guyton will say. So I think the challenges that he puts on my plate, I think was, a big sell for me with coming here and really challenging myself in my last year of college football.
And then has that led to you having a lot on your plate, you and he having a lot of one-on-one time in terms of understanding the offense and breaking things down?
Yeah, I'd say, we definitely have probably had more one-on-one time. I think the nice thing with him kind of being a rolling offensive coordinator is he's in everyone's meeting rooms pretty much every day. And a lot of that too is me taking the initiative and really the whole quarterback room. I think we have a pretty smart room where we're all kind of one step ahead, where maybe it's a new tweak in a play and we haven't gone over it. So we're there to ask the question before they have a chance to teach us, or maybe a mistake or whatever, a small kind of detail in practice. I think that's when I've taken the initiative to reach out to him, and then we kind of have that constant communication, whether it's texting, walk with each other to lunch, whatever it is, out here on the practice field, to where we definitely had some more back and forth, kind of making sure he knows that I know the intent and his intent to run the play, and then that way if we're aligned, I think we have a really good chance of being successful.
Billy, what ways have you grown as a leader or players from day one here to maybe now?
Yeah, I think looking back at what have I been here, 3 months, it's gone by extremely fast. I think just continuing to be pushed outside my comfort zone. I think whether you look at that in the weight room and coming here and really just didn't try to be very vocal when I first got here, just tried to establish relationships with guys, try to build relationships that we could have outside of here, knowing that when we come in here, I mean, everything about this program is tough and hard, and it's intentional, and they do it on purpose, and I love it because Saturdays are hard, and if we train at a level of 20 and games are played at level 10 to 15, then obviously we'll be able to fall back on the level of our training. So I think just getting pushed in all aspects, I think that was, like I said, a big reason why I wanted to come here, to really challenge myself, not only as a player on the field but also as a leader. Stepping into a new locker room with this landscape of college football, there's 30-some new guys. You're obviously the quarterback of a new offense coordinator that comes in. There's a lot of attention and eyes on you, and I think just embracing that and then continuing to stay true to myself and developing relationships with these guys, getting to know the coaches, the support staff, everyone that kind of plays a pivotal role in our success here. I think that's where I've been challenged the most, and it's something that I just try to embrace and really this is my last year of college football. Really just try to soak it all up and make the most of it that way. When I'm done here in 10-11 months, I have no regrets.
How different is the terminology as far as from Maryland learning the offense?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some layover, some similarities, with a lot of the maybe formations and stuff. I think there is a lot of new stuff. I think the one thing that's awesome about this staff is, they sit up there, there's probably 11, 12, grown men in that room on the offensive staff kind of thinking of how to install the offense to, give us the best chance at success. And I think they've done a great job at that, whether it's word association, kind of giving you hints inside the words with, the order of letters, little stuff like that. But it's definitely been a lot. And I think Coach Grimes has told us and, applauded us when it's due of they're going to push a lot on our plate, and they know we can handle it mentally. So it's just continuing, us as players to continue to push ourselves mentally and know that, with all the spring ball and kind of going through some of these things for the first time, there may be some growing pains, but, I've really been proud of, all the offense and the coaches and kind of how we've developed and established some pretty quick cohesiveness in terms of installing all that, and then kind of going through all the details of it. I feel like every day there's more details to a play that we've just kind of continued to dig in, and it's been really fun for me as an older guy. I may ask a question on day one and Coach Guy's like, wait till day 5, like I promise you we got you, and then getting to those points, it's been really fun.
What are your impressions of Carter Smith and what he's doing here in his first spring as a true freshman?
Yeah, he's honestly made so much progress, since we just finished practice 8, since day 1 to practice 7 or 8, whatever we finished up here. I think the biggest thing for him is, us older guys, we got an opportunity to give him kind of all the little nuggets that we got when we were younger. And every day I feel like you've seen him kind of apply maybe 2 or 3 of those things and really, take the next step. And I think obviously the kid's supposed to be a high school senior. So I think if he, continues, it's early, but I was his age once too. I think if he continues to take, the necessary steps and just approach every practice like it's a game where, maybe a busted play and you got to haul your butt off because you don't want to get, in a game, you're not just going to stand there. Little things like that, you've seen him grow a lot on in the last probably 2.5 weeks, which has been really exciting for, because obviously he's the newest guy in our room. There's a lot of new faces. Him being the youngest, I think we all kind of give him a hard time, but, he embraces that and kind of, gives us just as much of the hard time back, which we're able to all push each other, I think. So it's been fun to see him grow. I think all the quarterbacks, including myself, have just tried to, make a little bit of progress every day with all the stuff put on our plate, and I think we've all embraced, the new change.
Billy, you're obviously facing a very experienced secondary every day. What has that challenge been like, and how have those guys helped you sort of grow in
I mean, it's on the back of our lifting shirts, man. Iron sharpens iron. It's been fun. I sit next to Rico in the team meeting room. I think Nye's like 1 seat down from him. I'm always talking to AB when we're in the training room or outside of here. So Preston Zachman was probably one of the first guys I texted when I committed. So it's been fun to really get a chance. I think in the beginning of spring ball, it was both sides kind of filling each other out. And now, we're starting to pick up on stuff, them picking up stuff on me and vice versa. And so, plays are made on both sides of the ball, whether it's us making a play on them or them making a play on me or the ball. So it's been fun to, we're getting after it when we get out here, but then when we go in the training room or we go up to this leadership meeting, we'll talk about it. Be like, hey, Nye will be like, why'd you throw this? And I'll give him kind of my rundown, just so we're continuing to kind of get better from each other. Obviously they've made some plays on me, I made some plays on them, but it's been fun, to come here and be an older guy and, have seen some of these coverages and in-game experience in the past, to really get, a crack at, one of the more experienced, back ends, I guess, in all college football, definitely in the Big Ten. It's definitely going to make me better and make, some of all the quarterbacks in this offense better. So it's been fun so far, just trying to embrace it. We definitely have some conversations back and forth when we're out here, some good trash talk, but it's been really fun. And, it's been good to, like I said, go back and forth and kind of really just, make each other better.
You mentioned
Billy. Anything else?
Yeah, Daniel Bryan has been another new guy in your room. Just what stands out about how he kind of prepares, coming from a year of experience on his own end, and what's kind of stood out to you about how he plays?
Yeah, I think there's some maturity in him. I think obviously when you first get to meet him, and when he first came here, you wouldn't know that he was only a second-year guy. I think a lot of that came from the poise he kind of threw from winning the job last year, and not being thrown in the fire. He earned it, but as a freshman playing at any collegiate football, it's definitely tough. And I think he has a lot of experience, good and bad, from that year. And I think he's taken that with my experience of playing games and his, we're able to kind of go back and forth. So just the maturity level of him. I think all of us, we're in here at on off days at 4 p.m. going over our plays, and there's constant communication. We got multiple group chats without coach guidance, so that way we don't bother him in terms of when we're texting, asking plays. But just the maturity level of him. I think it's been fun. Obviously, looking at that room, when you look at it on paper, you got me as a fifth year and you got 2 second years and a mid year. Definitely as a fifth year, it can look a little daunting. And then some of these guys are talking about things where I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about now. It's been that long, but with just the maturity level that he brings, on the football field, and you see it when he plays. The glimpses of explosive plays and really smart plays, and we've kind of gone back and forth in terms of the experiences that I could share with him and vice versa. So it's been good and something that I look forward to continue to build on, and make sure I make the most of while I'm here, and then also help him out in whatever way I can for that. Whenever he takes over, he's ready to go and he feels the most prepared.
Billy, you mentioned embracing this opportunity. How much is that this is your last season, your last college football year, in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I think it is some. I think the nice thing is there hasn't been much change in my head of all throughout my college career. Like I said, I've always sought opportunity and just tried to embrace it. Whether that was being a backup at Maryland, a freshman at Wake Forest, trying to climb my way up, all the way to being the starter last year. So I think I'm definitely just embracing it. And I think, like you said, the reason to know that this is my last season, and to be at a place like Wisconsin that's this special, and to have the special people in our building, all the way from the head coach down to our janitors that come in, when we're done practicing and whatnot, it makes it all the more better, for me to just come out here and give these guys in the locker room and give this facility my all, and try to live with no regrets. That's been my biggest thing. It's just every day I'm given an opportunity, whether it's an off day, whether it's a Saturday, a Sunday, just to make the most of it. And then I feel like with the guys we have in here that will continue to push each other. I think if I continue to make the most of it, and embrace all the change that I've kind of gone through the last couple months, I don't think I'll have really any if much regrets when it's all said and done.
You mentioned
Thanks, guys.
Coach Guy.